So everybody knows that Carrie and I like backpacking. I talk about it all the time. We talk about it a lot. I think about it a lot. I try not to buy things for it a lot. That one's harder. That one's harder to do sometimes. Sean Brown told me about a website called thelasthunt.com. I think it's called The Last Hunt and the First Divorce. I think that's the subtitle of it. But it's, man, they have cheap stuff. Anyways, right now they have like merino wool icebreaker base layers on for just ridiculous sales. It's very, very hard to not go there. But anyways, Carrie and I like backpacking, and we were supposed to go and hike the West Highland Way in Scotland in the spring of 2021. We did not go hike the West Highland Way in the spring of 2021. Now, the West Highland Way is a 100-mile hike that goes from Ben Nevis in Scotland all the way down to the town of Milngavie, which is almost basically a suburb of Glasgow. And we were supposed to hike there. You start on Ben Nevis. We were going to start on Ben Nevis Mountain and then hike our way through the Scottish Highlands and stay at these ancient inns and drink in these ancient pubs. And it was going to be amazing in the spring of 2021. But we couldn't do that because COVID. So then we rescheduled it for the spring of 2022, and we were supposed to go this spring. And then as we were coming into the fall, thinking of maybe buying tickets, watching stuff start to go up again, and then this Omicron thing happened. We're like, maybe we should reschedule. And so now we're rescheduling it again for the spring of 2023, I guess. I don't know. That's kind of the hope, maybe, that we're going to be able to go there. We were supposed to take the kids and my mom. We were going to go for a week and see family, and then my mom was going to bring the kids home. We were going to do this hike. It was going to be amazing, and we were really excited about it, and then COVID. Stupid COVID. The pandemic has made a lot of plans change. It's made it really hard to plan anything at all. It's made it very difficult to just have any kind of plan, right? I saw this great meme that I really liked recently. It was my 5-year plan. If you go to the next one, my 5-year plan is to try to make it through this year. That was I like that. That's kind of about it, right? Like, imagine trying to have a 5-year plan. Right now at Redwood, we're strategically planning, and I'm finding it hard to be really on board because it's like, how do we have any idea what 5 years from now it's going to look like, right? Oh my goodness. Anyways, it feels appropriate for life. Got all the things keep changing all the time. They keep changing the rules on us. You notice you didn't have to sign in today because that's a new rule. To change that rule on us. Now we don't have to do that anymore. You know, changing the times we're supposed to be isolating or not isolating, or all sorts of different stuff about what we're allowed to do. And then maybe there's going to be, some more changes coming up soon. We were talking this morning about maybe we'll be able to have coffee soon. Wouldn't that be exciting? Oh my goodness, coffee at church. Oh, that would just be so exciting. I don't know. Don't get too excited yet. Maybe they'll lock it all down again. I don't know, right? It's been hard. And it's been no different at Vox either. It's been hard to plan. It's been hard to think about Vox. I mean, Trevor and Heather have been working so hard to try to do something for the youth, and every time we finally we got a thing going, and then now lockdown again. Now we can't do this. Then we got to change the time. Now we can't. It's hard. It makes it really, really hard. And churches have been hit hard during the pandemic. Every pastor friend that I have, their church's attendance has really just dropped. I mean, it hasn't happened at Vox, but I mean at other churches. I mean, bang, like. For you at home, there's 150 people here. It's incredible. And can you hear them? Oh, it's so loud. But I have friends, like there are churches that went from 1,500 people to 400 people, right? And for lots of different reasons. Some people just sort of drifted away. Some people who kind of maybe came once every 6 weeks, once there's a pandemic, maybe they don't come every 6 weeks kind of thing. And we've seen people make huge life changes because of the pandemic. We've lost family. The Hattons, hi guys, are living, near Ottawa. I always want to say Ottawa, but I think it's Cornwall, right? Anyways, they're living, it's beautiful. We all want to go move in with them. But we've seen people make significant life changes. Coopers have gone up to Thunder Bay, and the Snows have moved to the, what town is it? I was going to say the big city of Utopia. Yes, my favorite. Utopia. How cocky do you have to be to name a town Utopia? Anyways, so they've moved to Utopia. Roy thinks it's Utopia because he's got a hot tub, right? And a tractor. Yeah, that is kind of Utopia. And we've seen people upset because we followed, public health guidance. I've gotten phone calls, do you wear masks at your church? Yes, we wear masks at our church. It's the law. I'm not coming then. It's like, well, you didn't come in the first place. But anyway, but yeah, we've seen that. And lots of churches have seen that. Churches have split over the issue, right? We've seen things shift now that online church is an option. We all had to kind of go online, and now we're online, and we're here, and we were trying to figure out the hybrid. And, this week we have a Heather camera, because we're like, oh, yeah, right, we got to do that. And we're trying to figure all that kind of stuff out, trying to make sure people know about communion ahead of time so that you guys can join us at home. And it's a challenge, and we're struggling with the reality of it all. And it's been tough because Vox has always been about community and connection. We've never been about the show. Let's face it, we're not particularly good at the show, right? We screw up and we goof off and we always say, right? I mean, even for worship, we set the bar at try not to suck. That's the bar, so that we can all kind of worship together. We're not trying to make it perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, you can probably not imagine it's perfect all the time. But this isn't us. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is us, what takes place here and now, and when we're able to eat in each other's homes and be together and care for each other and love each other in that reality. And this has been a challenge for all of us. It's hard to do life together when that's against the law and it's isolated and disconnected. And it's hard to think about what comes next. And when the truth is, when it comes to Vox's future, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't have any answers. I feel like that guy. Thanks for coming this morning. Today's passage, we're in the book of John still. Shocking, I know. We're in the book of John today, and it was really kind of cute because Patrick brought his lunchbox it wasn't a box really, it looked like a cool neoprene bag, but he brought his lunch bag with him today, and so we're actually going to talk a little bit about that today because it's when Jesus feeds the 5,000. So Jesus has been ticking a whole bunch of people off. Last week we talked about it, and the week before where Jesus has been doing the whole I and the Father are one kind of thing, and when I see the Father and what I do and the Father does, and people are getting real mad and they're like, oh my goodness, this is blasphemy, we got to stone this guy, and people are getting grumpy, and Jesus goes into this big speech about all that kind of stuff, and then he decides to switch up the scenery. I think probably because he's sensing the grumpiness of some of the religious leaders, and maybe I should go somewhere else because they're over here plotting to kill him, right? We talked about that. And so Jesus decides he's going to switch it up. And so we're going to pick it up at John chapter 6, verse 1. So after this, Jesus went across the Galilee Sea, that is the Tiberias Sea. A large crowd followed him because they had seen the miraculous signs he had done among the sick. Jesus went up a mountain and sat there with his disciples. It was nearly time for Passover, the Jewish festival. And Jesus looked up and saw the large crowd coming towards him. And he asked Philip, where will we buy food to feed these people? I love this line. You get the sense that John puts this in here as kind of a shot to Philip. Do you know what I mean? Right? Where will we buy food? Where will we buy food to feed these people? Jesus said this to test him, for he already knew what he was going to do. Philip replied, more than a half a year's salary worth of food wouldn't be enough for each person to have even a little bit. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said, a youth here has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, but what good is that for a crowd like this? Yeah, Andrew, Simon's brother, said, Patrick brought his lunch bag. What good is that for a crowd like this? Well, Jesus said, have the people sit down. There was plenty of grass there. They sat down, about 5,000 of them. One of them talks about this being the men, 5,000 men. Then Jesus took the bread. When he had given thanks, he distributed it to those who were sitting there. He did the same with the fish, each getting as much as they wanted. When they had plenty to eat, he said to his disciples, "Gather up the leftover pieces so that nothing will be wasted." So they gathered them and filled 12 baskets with the pieces of the 5 barley loaves that had been left over by those who had eaten. When the people saw that he had done a miraculous sign, they said, "This is truly the prophet who is coming into the world." Jesus understood that they were about to come and force him to be their king, so he took refuge again alone on a mountain. This is one of these stories that we can miss some of what's going on because it's so familiar, right? Like we've heard, those who have grown up in church, we've heard this story over and over and over and over again. We've seen the cartoons about it. We've seen the flannel graphs about it. I think VeggieTales did something about it. Do you know what I mean? Like we've seen it so much that we're like, yeah, you fed 5,000. That's good. Oh, good. Yeah, it's really great. Right? And I think we kind of miss out on what's happening. We forget the reality of what's happening because it feels like a fable. We forget that the disciples are people like you and me, real people, in a real time, in a real place, with a crazy rabbi who says, "Okay, you guys get everybody to sit." Can you imagine the moment? Get everybody to sit down. Okay, right? And then we'll distribute the food. Oh, gonna take a long time. Do you know what I mean? Like there's this moment, that's how you and I would be in that moment. But Jesus wants to get away for a bit, so he heads out to the other side of the Sea of Galilee. He disappears from the group of people that are following him. And he goes off kind of on his own and just with the disciples. He does this a lot. He disappears by himself often to pray, to connect with God. And he often seems to do it either after or before he's about to do something crazy like he does today. There's some connection that Jesus goes to be with God, to receive that power, that understanding, and that direction that God has for him. He needs to recharge. He needs to connect with his Father. He needs to connect with God. It's a very good example for us to follow. I know it sounds a little Sunday schoolish, but if Jesus feels the need to spend time with God in prayer, feels the need to get away for a little bit by himself, feels the need to slow his life down, even in the midst of these pressing crowds. If Jesus feels that, I think perhaps we should maybe pay attention and follow suit as well. You know what I mean? I don't know about you, I'm not Jesus. Shocking, I know. Anyway, so Jesus goes off. He wants to be by himself. He wants to spend some time too, I think, with the disciples. One of the things that we kind of miss is that Jesus has this way of doing discipleship where he does a bunch of stuff and he gives these very public speeches, and then he tends to try to get away with the disciples and kind of debrief a little bit with them. You get the sense that he gets alone and is like, "Okay, guys, here's what's going on." And sometimes we actually have him full on doing this, where after he does a big thing, he steps away and then he explains the parable that he just told to the crowd so they kind of understand how he thinks and how he teaches and how he does what he's doing so they can then go and do it later. And so Jesus gets away with his disciples for a little bit, but the crowd follows. The crowd follows. They want to see more miracles. Can you blame them? Like, honestly, can you blame them? I mean, the scriptures say that Jesus has been healing their sick, right? It's just a couple of chapters before, a couple of paragraphs before, where Jesus heals this guy who hadn't walked ever, says, "Hey, you get up, take your mat and walk," and the guy walks. If you saw that, you would want the sequel, right? Not only that, but people then went home and they got all their sick people and were like, "Hey, if it worked for that guy, grandma should be all right. Let's go get grandma." And brought them to Jesus. And so this crowd comes because he's been doing all of these amazing miracles, not to mention the water to wine thing. I mean, there's probably people following just for hoping for a take two on that, right? Somebody coming along, they're like, "Jesus, I heard about Cana," right? And the alcoholics got like a big bucket. Anyways, no. That was stupid. Anyway, so there's quite the crowd. So the disciples and Jesus are sitting there, and it says they see the crowd walking towards them. Now, one of the translations, one of the accounts of this says there are 5,000 men plus women and children. And so the crowd is estimated at around 10,000 people are coming towards Jesus. Jesus looks up and he sees that crowd of people. I was trying to give us a way to understand that, and I looked up the average attendance at Canada's Wonderland. So this is half of all of the people at Canada's Wonderland on a busy Saturday in the summer are walking towards Jesus and the disciples. Put yourself there as one of the disciples. You're sitting there as one of them, and 10,000 people are coming up this hill towards you. And Jesus says this, John 6:5. Jesus looked up, saw the large crowd coming towards him, and he asked Philip, "Where will we buy food to feed all these people?" Imagine it's you, right? Now, he asks Philip, likely because this is actually where we're told that Philip is from. It's Philip's home turf, hometown. It's like, Philip, you're from here. Where should we buy food for these 10,000 people coming towards us? Is there a Subway? Do you know what I mean? Now imagine it's you. So you look up, 10,000 people, half of Canada's Wonderland is walking towards you. And Jesus says, "Hey, Taya, where should we buy food to feed these 10,000 people?" What would you do? How do you answer that question, right? Philip pretty much just gives up. Philip doesn't even try, which I kind of like. Philip is just like, beats me, right? He makes a point of pointing out, Jesus, that's impossible. Not going to happen, right? He's like, even if we could find somewhere here that happens to have 10,000 people worth of food ready to buy, it would cost more than half of a year's salary. For fun, I looked it up based on the current price of a Big Mac meal at McDonald's. I gotta get the number. Yeah, it's over $100,000, about $109 to buy everybody there a Big Mac meal from McDonald's. Imagine if you worked at McDonald's. You come in that day. Can I help you? Yes. Can I have 10,000 Big Mac meals, please? 20 minutes or it's free? Anyways. I love that. Is that how you would reply? Would you reply like Philip? Would you give up? Right? Would you reply like Philip? Would you be like, Jesus, not in a million years, man. If we had all the money in the world, we couldn't do it. It's the year zero-ish. We don't have the capability of just going and buying 10,000 people's worth of food. Would you just give up? Or does your mind start, are you a problem solver? Maybe you're a problem solver. That's what Andrew does. Andrew's a problem solver, right? So Philip just pretty much gives up. He's like, it's never going to happen. And Andrew goes and grabs this little kid. I hope he talked to the kid. We don't know. We don't know if he stole the little kid's lunch. We don't even know. He's like, oh, I beat up this kid over here, right? He has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. I love that. Here's the question I had this week. Is Andrew trying to solve the problem, or is he being a smartass? Like, on one hand, if you're charitable, he's trying to solve the problem. He's like, well, I don't know. This is what we found, Jesus. This is what we found. We found this kid, and we stole his lunch. So he's either doing that, or he's like, oh, Jesus, I fixed the problem, right? Like, ha, ha, ha. What are you going to do with this? Basically, they both answer with the same response. They both basically, underneath it, the same response is, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Jesus says, what should we do? And I don't know what to do, Jesus. We don't have enough money. Just got this kid's lunch. I don't know what to do. That's a good answer. I think our world would be so much better if we would answer that more often. I don't know what to do. Like, we all kind of buy into fake it till you make it, right? We sort of bought into you have to have an answer. But what if you don't have an answer? If you don't know what to do, you know what that inspires you to do? Go figure out what to do. Like, go learn something. Go talk to some people. Go ask some questions. Go on YouTube. Lots of experts there, right? Like, we want to, we want to be able to do that. I don't know what to do. But John tells us that Jesus is testing Philip. He's like, Jesus asked him, Jesus is kind of a bit of a jerk here. He's like, Jesus asked him, but he already knew what he was going to do. Like, what's the test? What was the test? What was the right answer? I don't think Jesus, we don't have enough money, or stealing a kid's lunch. I don't think either of those was the correct answer to the test, right? What would you do? This had happened to the Israelites before. The Israelites, there was this whole string of kings that they had in Judah, and some of them were good and some of them were bad. Most of them were bad. They'd had a whole string of really bad, evil, self-centered, manipulative, leaders. Because it was back in the day. We don't deal with that problem anymore. And so they'd had all these terrible kings, and they finally got a good one. They got a good one named Jehoshaphat. Didn't have the best name necessarily, but he was a really good king. He loved God. He started reading the law to the people again, and he was trying to do the right thing and lead the country the way that God wanted him to lead the country. And things looked like maybe they were going to be okay. And then, of course, as always seemed to be the case for the Israelites, some of the people around them, the nations around them, wanted to attack them and take their land again. The nation of Edom wanted, along with the Ammonites and the Moabites, was going to attack them. And so the king receives word that this huge army is marching towards the nation of Israel. And you get a sense from the king that he's a little frustrated. In 2 Chronicles chapter 20, you get a sense that the king is like, are you kidding me? Like, we just got things sort of straightened out. We found the law, we're reading the law and teaching people, and we're just trying to do the right thing. And now we're going to get attacked by this giant 3-nation army. It's not a 7-nation army at least, but a 3-nation army. White Stripes hadn't been around yet. And it's marching towards the king. And the king is scared. You get this sense in the language that he's frustrated, but he's scared. They're all going to die. And the kings always die. They always beheaded them in public to make a point. And so the king is like, oh man, I really like my head where it is. And so the king is scared and he prays and he's angry and he's like, God, where are you? Fight our enemies, all this kind of stuff. And then there's this powerful, powerful phrase in 2 Chronicles chapter 20, verse 12. Jehoshaphat says, remember this is the king of the nation of Israel publicly praying. And Jehoshaphat says, we don't know what to do. And so we are looking to you for help. Man, there's a passage of scripture every one of us should memorize. We don't know what to do. And so we are looking to you for help. The leadership books say you're supposed to be a strong and decisive leader. You're not supposed to stand up in front of a nation and say, we don't know what to do. And so we are looking to you, God, for help. Jehoshaphat knew. He knew what to do. What to do when the situation is literally impossible. And there is no other option. There's no way out of this. He knew what to do. That was to say to God, we don't know what to do. We are looking to you for help. That should have been Philip's response when Jesus asked him, what should they do, right? That would have been the right answer. That was the right answer to the test. Like, and when Jesus says to him, where are we going to buy food? Like, Philip should have been like, look at Jesus. You turned water into wine. This should not be a problem for you. Or he could have been like, man, just yesterday, the dude couldn't walk, and you're like, hey, stand up, walk, and the guy did. I don't know. What are you asking me for? You're the guy who does stuff like that. Why don't you do something, right? Or better yet, I don't know what to do. What do you think we should do, Jesus? I mean, that would be the right answer. Roy and I were having dinner or lunch this week, and we were talking about this, and both of us are thinking about later in the book of Acts, Philip gets called by the Holy Spirit. The Bible says that he's led by the Spirit out into the middle of nowhere. And one of the things that's fascinating in the book of Acts is Philip just goes. He's like, all right, sure, let's go. And he's out in the middle of nowhere, and this chariot comes by with this Ethiopian eunuch who's reading the Bible. And Philip's like, oh, hey, that's interesting. Do you know what you're reading? You want me to help you? And so he explains all about Jesus and everything that happened. And then the Ethiopian eunuch says to Philip, he's like, hey, is there anything to keep me from being baptized? And Philip's like, not that I can see. And so he baptizes him right there. And the first recorded Gentile convert that we have in the scripture is a black transgender guy. That's just really quite phenomenal. And it's Philip that does it because he's not getting caught again. Right? He gets led by the Spirit, and he's like, all right. Because the last time he was like, no, I was like, Jesus, you can't do that. It's impossible, blah, blah. He's like, I'm not saying that again. No way. You fooled me twice, right? I love that about Philip. Philip actually learns, he learns that no matter how crazy it is, no matter how impossible it is, I don't know what to do. We're looking to you for help. Beautiful. It's okay to not know what to do. It is okay to not know what to do. I know it's been said so many times, unprecedented, that word we use for the pandemic, but it is. 1918 is the last time this happened. Anybody? Anybody alive? Anybody? No? No one was around for the Spanish flu? And it wasn't like this. It took you 6 months to get around the world at that point in time. You couldn't just pop on a plane and bring Omicron somewhere else as a nice housewarming gift, right? Like, it's a whole new world we're living in, and we're having to make decisions and deal with stuff that none of us ever had to deal with. We're living through something that hasn't happened since 1918. It's new for all of us. We're all in uncharted territory. We're all struggling. We're all exhausted. We have no idea what the psychological fallout of this is going to be, impact of this is going to be. We don't have any idea what the financial impact of this is going to be. Today, we might not be able to get grapes for 3 to 5 years. Oh, yeah. Oh, also, there might be raging inflation and we might all lose our homes, but the grapes thing is bad. You know what I mean? Like, man. We're all fed up. We're all tired. We're all sick of COVID. COVID apparently doesn't care. Like, these are normal feelings to have right now. It's okay not to know what to do all the time. And then think about just if there had never been a pandemic. We are called to be followers of Jesus. We're called to see God's kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. We're called to be ministers of reconciliation in the world around us. We're called to live our lives as if we're citizens of God's kingdom here and now, even if it's not here and now yet, to bring in God's kingdom here and now. Jesus told us that the gospel of the kingdom will be proclaimed throughout the world as a testimony to all nations. Then the end will come. Just there, supposed to bring the gospel of God's kingdom to the entire world. Jesus said, "Go ye therefore into all the world and make disciples of all people." I'm tired. I can't do all people. I can't go to all the world. I have a hard enough time managing myself. I have a hard enough time making decent decisions for me. I have a hard enough time caring for some of the people that God has brought into my life, and it's hard enough to connect with all of you and stay connected. It's hard enough to figure out how to connect online and at the pub and all these other places. They proclaim the gospel to the whole world. That is really big. Sometimes at the Bend House, we have conversations about ending homelessness. Like that's a thing that we can just go do. Like, what is the plan, everybody, to end homelessness? There are coalitions that have targets, ending homelessness by, and pick a year. And then at Vox, we struggle. We talk about what does it look like to fight for equality for our LGBT brothers and sisters? What does it look like to talk about some of the racism that we see in the world around us? How do we deal with the division? Heather, a couple weeks ago, said, how do we heal the divisions that we have now in our country and the church? I'm like, should be easy. Like, think about that. How do we heal the divisions? It's the same question. How are we going to feed 10,000 people, Philip? We don't know what to do. And so we are looking to you for help. I was thinking about it with Vox. There's lots of people right now with lots of ideas. Online, there's all these churchy people, churchy publications writing articles about what the future of church will look like. And last week, there was a big uproar because there's a conversation about whether online church is valid or not valid, and everybody's all mad. Christians just really like to get mad. And everybody's got ideas about how we fix the church because it's broken from the pandemic. What does life after online church look like? Questions like, why have people left the church? Why? I mean, it's not just Vox. Why have people left the church in general? Why have people drifted away? Well, people come back to the church. When all the changes kept happening, some people said, how are you dealing with the changes with the reduced capacity? I said, it's not really been an issue. Right? Technically, I know the number for this room. We're all right, right? And start asking questions. Can we keep paying our bills as a church? Can we keep meeting here? Can the loft keep paying its bills? Keep locking down all the stuff that doesn't seem to be the problem. Can I keep paying my bills if I keep taking less and less money? Will Vox be able to survive? What are we going to do? I don't know what to do. So, we're looking to Jesus for help. I think we can learn something from what Andrew does here, if I'm being charitable. And even if he's being a smartass, Jesus still works with it. Philip just does shrugs, right? Philip's like, oh. I mean, it sounds all fancy, especially in the King James, but essentially that's Philip's answer. Oh. And Andrew goes and finds his kid, right? N.T. Wright puts it like this. He says, the point is obvious, but perhaps we need to be reminded of it. So often we ourselves have no idea what to do. I love that this is N.T. Wright, by the way. This might be one of the most brilliant theologians alive. Even if you don't agree with him, the capacity of this man's mind. And I love that he writes, we ourselves have no idea what to do. But the starting point is always to bring what there is to the attention of Jesus. You can never tell what he's going to do with it. The part of the Christian faith is the expectation that he will do something we hadn't thought of, something new and creative. Jesus is a miracle-working God. And so if I'm being generous and charitable, Andrew's like, this is what we got. Go ahead, Tommy. That probably wasn't Tommy. It's not a very Jewish name. Go ahead, Methuselah. Anyways, he would have sent him forward. This is what we got. And Jesus sort of responds with, awesome. That should do the trick. Get everybody to sit down. And let me give thanks. Can you imagine that moment? He gives thanks. He breaks the bread. And he says he looks to heaven and he gives thanks. You're one of the disciples. You got everybody to sit down. 5 loaves, 2 fishes. God, thank you for providing for our needs. Right? You are a gracious God. Actually, what he probably said was, Baruch atah, he went into this whole blessing. Blessed are you, O Lord, our God, King of the universe, who gives us bread for our bodies. And then he starts handing it out. Can you feel the buildings? Can you feel the laughter and the giggling? Guaranteed they're giggling. They're yelling, they're screaming. The crowd is going, because they just keep going forward to get more bread. And they start passing these things and they're like, there's more bread and there's more bread and there's more bread. Can you feel it? Can you feel the like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. Jesus is nuts. This is amazing, right? Can you hear the disciples yelling back and forth to each other? Can you believe this? Can you believe this is happening? Holy crap, all we have was that kid's lunch that Andrew stole and like everybody's eating. This is amazing. Can you feel it? Oh my goodness, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And these are the foundations for what the disciples do later. They literally go to the entire known world at the time. A bunch of hicks from the redneck area of Israel end up in England, they end up down in Africa, they end up in Asia, they end up over in India, they end up all over the entire world. Why? Because their God works miracles, and if God says go, like Philip, they're like, I'm not falling for it again. All right, here we go. And they watched incredible things happen, and 2,000 years later, we are here toasting Jesus, sharing this same meal that they shared 2,000 years ago because they actually believed that God is a God who takes 5 loaves and 2 fishes and can do miracles. And so last week we prayed. We prayed for Sophie. And we're like, all right, God, I don't know what to do. So we're looking to you for help. And she's up. But it doesn't always happen, does it? God doesn't always heal. There are a lot of us here with chronic issues that we have begged God to heal, and he has not healed. But we always have the privilege of saying, I don't know what to do. So we're looking to you for help. And your track record is kick-ass. So we are going to trust. We're going to trust that if you ask us to do something, if you call us to something, if you lead us somewhere, if you want us to do something, talk to somebody, change jobs, move to Cornwall, whatever it is that you are calling us to, we're going to trust that it's going to work out. It's going to make sense. Because we don't know what to do. And we are looking to you for help. If you're feeling a bit like the disciples today, if you're feeling like Jesus is asking of you stuff that is way beyond you, you're like, it's impossible. There's hope. If you're not sure what to do next, it's okay. There's hope. If life feels too big for you right now, it's okay. There's hope. If you're feeling lost, confused, frustrated, it's okay, there's hope. If you need miracles, it's okay, there's hope. Because we can all cry out. And as a church, I think we are crying out, we don't know what to do. So we're looking to you for help. When I was writing this, I felt that line was Sometimes when we're doing music and playing drums for sort of like a dotted 6/8 kind of thing, a shuffled 6/8 is really hard. And I like David Crowder, and David Crowder loves that shuffled 6/8. And that shuffled 6/8 kind of does that like kind of vibe. And so I remember one time Tim was struggling, and I said, okay, don't count it. Don't think about it in your head. Imagine you're in a desert, right? You're in the desert, and you're just trying to get to that oasis. Right? One foot after the other. That's that kind of feel. You know what I mean? And so when I was writing the sermon, I felt like that line is like, we don't know what to do, so we're looking to you for help. And I just had a thought. That would not be the disciples' reaction after Jesus feeds the 5,000. For the rest of the disciples' time, it would no longer be, we don't know what to do, we're looking to you for help. It'd be like, we don't know what to do, we're looking for you for help. Oh my goodness, I can't wait, it's going to be exciting, right? I think it's different. And I feel that way about Vox, to be honest with you. This thing is ridiculous. It is. It's ridiculous. You all know it's ridiculous. It is a ridiculous little group of people that just keep getting together, trying to figure out what it means to follow Jesus together. And whatever it is that we are, whatever the dream, the idea, the philosophy that is Vox, not what it actually is, but really what we want it to be, it matters. It matters so much that people like you guys are all streaming in from all over the world because we don't know how to make that work, right? And so we don't know what to do, but we're looking to you for help. Because for the past 12 years now, 13 years, I don't know, 14 years? I don't know. Everything about Vox says it shouldn't be here still. And it is. So we don't know what to do. Man, we're looking to you for help because it's going to be crazy. Last worship team, come on up. Let's pray.